In the previous lesson, we explored cutting and copying and pasting. And in this lesson, we're going to look at another couple of versions of copying and pasting known as duplicating and cloning. They work a little bit differently and can really save you a lot of time when you need to repeat objects somewhere on your page. So you can see I flipped back to my green onion file here. If yours isn't open or you've skipped to this lesson, no problem. If you've got the exercise files, go to the Lesson 4 folder, open up green onion file 6.cdr, and click on page 3, our business card. You'll be all caught up. All right, I'm going to marquee select my onion and tomatoes, and I'm just going to move them up here out of the way temporarily and focus in on my broccoli. Now, if I want to duplicate this piece of broccoli and repeat it across the bottom of my business card, let's say, well, I know that I can go up to the Edit menu, choose Copy, and then if I needed to, paste it and position it where it needs to go, and then repeat that process for as many pieces of broccoli I need. Well, in this case, I'm going to use duplicating, which is faster and doesn't even use the clipboard. So I can go up to the Edit menu if I need to and select Duplicate, but notice that the keyboard shortcut is Control D. Another one that's easy to remember, D as in duplicate. When I click on it, you can see what happens. The Duplicate Offset dialog box will appear here the first time. Now in this case, the default offsets are going to tell me something about my piece of broccoli and its duplicate. The duplicate we're about to create will be horizontally offset by 1/4 inch, meaning it's going to move over to the right by 1/4 inch, and the vertical offset is also 1/4 inch, so it's going to move up 1/4 inch. In other words, my duplicate will be up on an angle to the right and above my original sprig of broccoli here. So if the defaults are okay with you, you just click OK. Otherwise, you can manipulate these values here if you needed to create a larger or a smaller value. You can use your arrows or just type in the value you want. I'm just going to click OK to see what happens with the duplicate. See how it's moved up and over. So it's over to the right by 1/4 inch and up by 1/4 inch. And now if I duplicate this again by pressing Control D, look what happens. That one is over and up by 1/4 inch both ways. It's called Smart Duplicate. That means if I was to drag this down here, watch what happens. Control D now moves it in relation to the previous one. Very similar offset to the previous one. If I move this down and try Control D and Control D, you can see the angle that it's taking. So it's very smart. It remembers the last offset and repeats it. All right, I'm going to hit Control Z a number of times to go back to my original sprig of broccoli. Now let's say I want to duplicate this straight across. Well, Control D we know is going to use the default offset, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to click on my sprig and just show you where you can change your offsets if you need to. We go up to Tools and then down to Options right here at the top. I'm going to go over to my Document Options here on the left and click the plus sign, because under General, when I click on that, I see my duplicate offsets. And horizontally, maybe 1/4 inch is okay. I'm going to bump that up actually to 0.4 inches. And vertically, I'm going to knock that down to 0. There we go. So it's not going to go up, it's just going to go over. When I click OK, and now I do my Control D, you can see how it's just moved over to the right. Control D again and again and again repeats my broccolis across the bottom of my business card. Now those are a little bit too big, so Control Z to undo them. And now I want to show you the difference between duplicating and cloning. Cloning is also available from the Edit menu. When I go up to the Edit menu and choose Clone from here, something similar happens. You can see the offset's the same. I've got the duplicate, but this works a little bit differently when it comes to changing your objects. This cloned object is now related to the original, which is known as the master object. And that means if I click on my master and make any changes to it, such as to size it down, watch what happens to the cloned object. It too is sized down. If I size it back up, well, my cloned object is also sized up. So if I wanted to duplicate the cloned object, I'll end up with a bunch of clones. So I'm going to use Control D here. Go all the way across my business card. I'll even go past the edge. Click on my original, the master, and size that down. Watch what happens. They all get sized down. Go a little bit further. There's my tiny little broccolis, and now I've got them in almost the exact spot where I want them. I can marquee select all of these and just move it into position. Now when I deselect, I see the end result. That's kind of cool. Now just keep in mind that when you make a change, it has to be to the master to affect all of the clones. If I want to make this middle one a little bit bigger, well, I could do that. I could size it up. I'm going to size it up from both corners just a little bit, deselect, and it's the only one that changed because it is a cloned object. It's not the master. So if I wanted it to revert back to its master, I can click on it and go through the menus, or just simply right-click. I like this option, and come up to Revert to Master. When I select this, I get to choose what I'm reverting to. In this case, it was just a transformation where I changed the size. So I click on the only checkbox that's available, click OK, and it's back down to the original size. Now I can move it into position if I want, line it up with the rest, and maybe that's the end result. But I do like having it a little bit bigger. Just the middle one. I like that effect, just like that. And there's my finished product. So you can see there is a little bit of a difference between duplicating and cloning. Both of them, though, are time savers. They save you a lot of time over doing the copy and paste option we talked about in the previous lesson.